Warren Buffett. Now, most of us know him as the billionaire entrepreneur, investor, one of the richest men in the history of the world, right? Most of us don't know him the way that I know him, which is as a remarkably good, if unlikely, nutritionist. Now, a lot of you might say, oh, what? He's a billionaire, he's good at everything, so he's a good nutritionist, he's a billionaire? And my response is, yeah. I mean, if billionaires can make good presidents, then why can't they make good nutrition? That's right. Mexico. It's my Donald Trump impression. It's horrible. And I'm certainly not telling anyone to take up Warren Buffett's personal diet, which to my knowledge consists of 8-year-old staples such as McDonald's in the morning, ice cream sundaes at night, and of course, throughout the day, at least 5 Coca-Colas. What I am saying is that Warren Buffett, over the years, has professed several principles. He keeps repeating them and claims that they have led to his billions of dollars. Now, I think we can take those principles and apply them directly to our diets to make us all a little bit healthier. Those 3 principles, which I will go over in this video in a little more detail, are as follows. Number 1, maintaining a long-term focus. Number 2, investing in companies with strong historical track records. And number 3, don't lose money. They all sound very simple, but in practice they turn out to be a little bit harder. So let's get into them. Number 1, maintaining a long-term focus. In a 1988 letter to his shareholders, Warren Buffett, shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett told us of his favorite amount of time to hold on to stocks. That time period, forever. Forever. He wants to hold on to stocks forever. That's how long he intended to hold on to Coca-Cola, which he made an investment in to, I think, acquire 10% of the company at that point in 1988. Over the years, he has continuously said in all his press conferences and his documentary, Becoming Warren Buffett, that he was always in it for the long-term mastery of the process, potentially long-term gains, and long-term building, not the short-term monetary gains. A lot of people don't know, but over 99% of his wealth was gained and accumulated after the age of 50. Right, he's about 90 right now, but he started in this business around the age of 20. So he had already been in the business for 3 decades and keeping that long-term focus the entire time. And I mean, he's worth about 80 bills, so that means that by the time he was 50, he wasn't even a billionaire yet. Right? What a jump. How does this apply to health? Well, contrast this with the way in which diet books and marketers pitch us diets now, right? Lose 10 pounds in 10 days or 10 weeks. All you got to do is adjust the amount of carbs you eat or the fat, or have the newest superfood cleanse or soup diet, and you will lose all this weight in the short term. The problem is, as Tracy Mann has shown us and other researchers, that all of these diets, right? No carb, slow carb, low carb, high carb, they all work in the short term only if you're after fat loss. But they all fail across the board in the long term. Long term, by the way, meaning over a year. So we're not exactly talking about the longest, term, not that long of a term. But on average, people actually gain weight on these diets. So Tracy Mann I think, probably a better idea to invest in healthy foods with a long-term outlook rather than short-term fat loss. But what are those healthy foods? We'll cover those in principle number 2, which is to maintain investments in companies that have long historical track records, long historical records of success. In most recent letter to shareholders, 2018 letter to shareholders, Warren Buffett revealed that 70% of the $190 billion controlled by Berkshire Hathaway is in just 6 stocks. Okay? Among those stocks are Bank of America, Kraft Heinz, Coca-Cola, and I believe Wells Fargo. and American Express, right? Those are 5 of the stocks. That's 5 of the 70% of his holdings. And what do all these companies have in common? They've all been around for nearly a century or more, okay? He maintains investments. He does a lot of research, but then invests in companies who already have proven long historical track records. How does that apply to health? We want to invest in the foods. We want to eat the foods that have been shown over a long, long period of time to be the healthiest foods. How do we know what those are? A good start is to look into blue zones, right? Dan Buettner and other researchers have identified regions of the earth, right, across the world, whether it's in Japan or the Mediterranean or Central America, where people live the longest lives and usually live the longest and healthiest lives. And although they have different little peculiarities of their diets, some eat fish, some eat meat, some eat dairy, they all have the same 5 or 6 food groups in common. And they're not going to be very surprising either. What are those 5 or 6 food groups? Greens and veggies, fruits and berries, nuts and seeds, beans / legumes, and whole grains. Okay? So probably a good idea to invest in those foods with long-term track records of success, and like Warren Buffett, just keep doing that for 75 years and you'll become a billionaire. A health billionaire. Doesn't make any sense. Number 3, don't lose money. The number 1 rule of investing from Warren Buffett famously is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is don't forget rule number 1. Charlie Munger, his partner, also says, I think comically, I just want to find out where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. And how does this apply to their own businesses? Well, if you want to invest with a long-term outlook and also in companies with strong historical success, you first need the money to do it. And if you lose all your money, you can't invest. How does that translate to health? Stay away from foods that researchers have said are most likely to kill us. If the foods are going to make you sick or dead, that's going to hurt your chances of doing anything you want, of course, right? Well, how do we know what foods those are? Well, you can look at long-term associative studies that have studied over decades and decades, tens of thousands of people across the world, and they all seem to suggest staying away from the same 5 or 6 foods. Similarly, all the diets, right? Whether you're vegan or paleo, or yes, they have it, the cross-section between the paleo and the vegan diet, it is real. The pegan or pagan diet, I'm not sure the pronunciation, but this is a real diet. They all suggest to stay away from the following 5 or 6 foods. What are they? Also, no surprises. Sugar, trans fat, processed and packaged foods, refined carbohydrates like white carbs, white flour, white rice, and alcohol, of course, including red wine, and to some degree or another, they advise to maintain low levels of saturated fat. So those are the foods. Those are the 3 principles. Let's go through those one more time. 1 is long-term focus. Number 2, which for us means not maintaining long-term focus versus short-term fat loss. Number 2 is investing in companies with historical success. For us, that's eating foods that have been shown over a long period of time to be the healthiest foods. And number 3, don't lose money, aka don't eat foods that are going to make us sick or dead. And that's it for the first episode of The Unlikely Nutritionist with Warren Buffett. Until next time, stay healthy, my friends.